Hello. I thought that today I'd talk about suffering and the art of suffering. We all suffer, every single one of us. And we suffer from the moment we're born, sometimes until the moment we die. And we suffer for so many different reasons as well. We suffer because we don't have enough money, or maybe we have too much money, because we have children or we don't have children. We like our jobs, we don't like our jobs. Truth is, anything can be the cause of suffering in our lives. And just speak to people, they're suffering for all sorts of reasons. There's nothing wrong inherently with suffering, the conditions of life. It's just when we get stuck, when we look at a particular issue that's making us suffer, and we can't move forward. So think of suffering as an art, as a beautiful piece of music. And it has its highs, its lows, its moments of tension, its moments of acceleration. And it should make you feel different emotions throughout. And the same should occur with suffering. Okay? We don't have to suffer all the time. We can be skillful sufferers. We can learn how to bring the volume down. So think about suffering, think about what it actually is. Suffering is to the mind what pain is to the body. And it's all interconnected, the body and the mind, because the manifestations of suffering, then you can feel through the body, the tension, the anxiety. These can result in illness, ultimately. So you want to know how to at least minimize your suffering. And most important of all, learn from it, because that's what suffering is fundamentally, a teacher. It's a response from your human mechanism, your mind and your body, to say, hey, something's not right. Your thoughts or your feelings or your emotions or your actions, your way of being in the world, are generating suboptimal existence for yourself. And there's tremendous amount of wisdom to take from that, if you're open to learning. So let's say you're stuck in a bit of a cycle of suffering. You don't really understand what to do to get out. It happens to many of us, depression, anxiety, all sorts of disorders. First you recognize that perhaps you don't have all the tools, perhaps you don't have all the information that you need to get yourself out of this situation, to progress. And then you think, okay, well, let me learn everything there is about this. Let me learn from those who have had depression and anxiety in the past. And I can speak only for myself. What's helped me along my journey is that I integrated knowledge from the collective, from all of humanity. And so if you're a Westerner, which you probably are, because we all are connected to the materialist zeitgeist, you probably don't delve quite often into Eastern philosophy. Okay, that's what helped me along my journey quite considerably. So when I went through anxiety and I went through depression, I looked at what can the West teach me first. I learnt about psychology, I learnt about cognitive behavioral therapy, I learnt about how the mind and the body are connected. Okay, and I applied that for a while, but it wasn't sufficient. And it was only when I reached to the East, which was such a foreign landscape for me at the time, that things began to click. Okay, you can look at philosophies such as Taoism and Buddhism, Hinduism even, and see what they have to say about the human condition. You know? They're quite different from us in the West because they focus with a passion on self-observation. They focus with a passion on understanding the fundamental nature of reality, of life, of us. And that's where it all lies. Okay? That's the great secret. We suffer fundamentally because we don't know ourselves. I've come to realize that that's probably the only fundamental problem there is in life. We suffer because we do not know ourselves fully. And so you have to ask yourself, first of all, how much do you really want it? How much is it worth to you being able to conquer your suffering? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to transform who you are? Because a lot of us think that there are hacks, that there's a 5-step program, that there's something that you can do that will accelerate your healing, but you fundamentally won't have to transform. And that's a lie, because you do have to transform. And transformation is painful. Because old parts of you die. They burn off. And so are you willing to burn off all these parts of you that aren't helping you to progress through life? It's not an easy endeavor, especially in the beginning, to realize that you're mostly obsolete. But it's the only game in town, it's the only thing to do. There's nothing else to do. Looking at yourself, trying to understand, what am I? Who am I? And then listening to what the voices of the past have said about this subject, and searching for first-hand experience of what you are. Because you're not your suffering, you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your car, your job, your relationships, you're nothing. You're nothing. You're deeper than that. But you have to experience it, not just words. Words will take you so far. They're the first step of understanding any concept. First you understand intellectually, then you feel firsthand, and then you integrate a concept into your being, you become it. Okay? If you hear that becoming a parent is a wonderful experience, yeah, you understand that. Of course, it makes sense. If you become a parent, you feel it. It's tremendous. And after a while, you become a parent. It's really who you are. And the same applies to healing. The same applies to overcoming suffering, the things that life throws our way. And life is ripe with opportunities to teach you the hard way. If you go around identifying as a person, a limited person, attached to things, situations, possessions, once these collapse, and they inevitably do collapse, then you suffer. So think of it this way. As I see it, this journey, this inner journey, is the only thing really to do in this life, in this existence. And once you've tasted it, you'll know what it's about. Of course, there are things that one has to do in the tangible world. It's important. Exercise is important. Sleep is important. Changing your circumstances is important. But there's something that comes before that. It's the soft work. You see, just as the body needs the bones to give it structure and the meat to give it flexibility, life is the same. Soft and hard, yin and yang, order and chaos. Do the soft work. I'm talking about what Eastern philosophy teaches us about meditation, self-contemplation. These are non-negotiable. Again, there's no hacks. It's non-negotiable. It's not 30 minutes on a Thursday, sitting down on a mat, trying not to think. Meditation is life itself. Being present, being here, listening to the birds. Feeling the breath. Practicing presence is fundamental. Because when we're suffering, we're usually not in the situation that makes us suffer. We're thinking about it, remembering it or imagining it. But the brain can't tell the difference. It thinks that you're there in that moment, feeling the experience, feeling the trauma, feeling the anxiety. Doesn't know that it's all imagination. So, learning how to, in a sense, tame your mind, just to say, hey mind, I hear you. You're worried, it's okay. But what about what's happening right now? Even now as you're watching this video, take a moment to look around. To notice the colors and the shapes and the textures around you. Take a deep breath. Feel your body. Can you feel your feet, the pressure on your feet if you're stood or sat down? Can you feel the clothes against your body? The temperature? The silence that permeates the present moment? It almost becomes an abstract concept for many people, the present moment. Because we're used to following thoughts, following hypothetical situations in our mind. Just being able to be in the present moment and notice what is happening. Just that can alleviate a lot of suffering in people's lives. I've seen it. People have gone lifetimes without enjoying a single moment of presence. Caught up in the stories of the mind, personhood. And so, cultivating presence, yes, definitely. And figuring out who you are, okay? We'll look at that in more depth in other videos. But that's the soft work, okay? Soft work is fundamental. Become a philosopher, become curious about life and death and everything in between. Passionately curious. As I said, there's nothing else to do. The achievements, the job, the house, the vacations, all of that will mean nothing if you can't enjoy it. And then when at least you can lower the volume of suffering, perhaps even no peace or ecstasy, who knows where your journey will take you. Then you can think about the hard work. Okay, then you can actually look at your life with clarity and say, hey, okay, maybe this job isn't good for me. How can I transition into something else? Maybe this relationship is no longer needed, or I need to invest a bit more into it. Perhaps I can start loving my body, taking care of it. The hard work is really the easy work. But both aspects are fundamental, the soft work and the hard work. Okay, the tangible and the intangible. The material and the spiritual. Look at the lessons. What your suffering is telling you is always the same thing. The lesson boils down to one thing. Is that you are not respecting your true self. You don't know your true self. You don't know who you are. So how could you respect it? Just breathing. Just breathing. You have what it takes already within you. And you know it. So stay tuned. I'll put out a few more videos talking about these concepts in depth. And hopefully grow a community around this channel and see where it can lead. Because I think this message is more important now than ever. We need you, the world needs you strong and capable of taking on life, the hardship of life. So thank you for listening, and one breath at a time. Thank you.